I love the show Everybody Hates Chris. I actually record it whenever it comes on. I always thought the show was funny, especially Rochelle. She was always my favorite, with her daily tantrums and always quitting jobs saying, "I don't need this. My husband's got 2 jobs." That was my favorite quote by her, but after what I saw, I will never, ever look at Rochelle the same way ever again. For the people who actually have seen the show, do you know how they never say if he passed the test on the last episode ever made? Well, I know what happens, and Rochelle's reaction wasn't happy. My DVR had recently recorded a new episode. It was called, Everybody Loves Death. I found it odd, but ignored it. It said it was recorded April 7, 12, so I thought it had just came out and it had new episode names instead of Everybody Hates Tasha, for example. I clicked play and it started up. Should I remind you, my parents were at work, my sister was at her friend's house, and my older brother was at his girlfriend's house. My 2 younger brothers were at my grandparents' house in Florida since they were always spoiled by them. Anyways, it started out normal, the same opening as always. Except it never said, Everybody Hates Chris. I found it odd but thought my TV was just cutting in and out. It didn't play the same happy tone it always did, it was just quiet. They were in the restaurant, but Tasha, Rochelle, Julius, Drew, and Chris were quiet. They were all staring into space, like they weren't even real. Their faces were expressionless, they were nothing, at all. Then Chris whispered, "I failed." When he said that, Rochelle's face seemed pale, her expression was angry, and she seemed far more mad than she really was, like he had just pushed Tasha, Drew, and Julius down a well. If you've seen the episodes with a lot of white women. Then she started yelling in a rage I've never seen before. She took Chris by the arm and literally dragged him away. All Julius, Drew, and Tasha did was sit a stare with the same expression as they did at the beginning of the show. Not even flinching. The screen faded to black, singing Everybody Hates Chris very, very quietly. The next scene was grotesque. It showed Chris, tied to a plain wooden chair. He had no arms, or legs. Just bloody little stubs where they were. His shirt had 30 or 40 holes in it, his pants were completely gone, all that was there was his stomach. His head was dented in and his eyes were bloody. The cut scene ended. May I add that I couldn't make out where he was, but looked like the restaurant they were in, except dark, dusty, and broken. The next scene, they were in their house on the couch. The same expressionless faces. Then they all just exploded into a crying fit, everybody did except Rochelle. Then it got statusy, and then I heard a woman singing, "Mary Had a Little Lamb." I figured out the voice singing it, it was Rochelle. Then I saw a video through the static. It was Rochelle, smiling genuinely happy. She was holding a baby boy, who I figured was Chris. Then she just turned evil and took a knife from the kitchen and started cutting off his arms and legs. The baby was crying in pain, the crying growing louder and louder each time she started cutting another limb. Then the static covered up the whole screen. But through the static I heard a woman say, "No regrets." And the show ended.